This is episode 89 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. This podcast is generously sponsored by Meet Jointly. Across the country, there are small businesses just starting to scale, get distribution, and launch in national retailers, but they all share one really big challenge: reaching new customers and growing their brand on a shoestring budget. Meet Jointly is a platform that connects growing brands with the influencers who are ready to share their products and stories with their engaged audience. Today, I'd like to welcome John Moran. John is a results-oriented marketing executive, digital content marketing consultant, MBA, CMO, and business owner, bringing 20 years of leadership experience producing and executing marketing campaigns for mid-sized companies to global brands. He brings deep experience providing digital media and content marketing strategies to drive brand awareness, engagement, demand generation, and revenues. John, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I would love to know how you got started in the digital space.
Well, I actually started my agency in the mid '90s before there was much digital in the digital, before there
Interesting.
really was a digital space. So we were more traditional marketing because there was no other marketing to be done. But in the late '90s, I started a small design group that focused on website design, and I was producing movies and videos of all things in the surfing industry. I was making surfing videos, and one of my clients from Discover Card said, "Can you make something like that for us?" Because they were trying to get people to sign up for credit cards, and they were interested in doing more dynamic videos. This was late '90s.
Okay.
From that point on, we got more into we started by demand really from our clients. We kind of moved into the digital space.
So of all niches you could have, how was it surfing? Are you a surfer? Or how did that happen?
Well, I'm in Boston, but there is surfing
Okay.
in the New Hampshire coast, and I started a surf brand in the '90s
Okay.
where the name Blue Wave originally came from. So yes,
Oh,
there is
that's
a definite
cool.
surfing connection here, and our clients love it in Southern California. We also get out there quite often.
Oh, that's cool. That's really interesting. Okay, so you got in the digital space, and then digital actually became a thing. So that's really cool that you're proactively working on those pieces. As you were kind of building out who you were targeting, how did you define whether you're going to target global corporations or mid-sized companies? How did you really drill that down?
Well, we kind of, it kind of, in a way, kind of self-selected because we were promoting ourselves to really everybody in
Okay.
the greater Boston area and then nationally. And at the end of the day, the kind of work that we do, we produce a lot of rich content, video content. Companies generally didn't need to have a budget to do this kind of work. So mid-sized companies up to global brands, we kind of we work across the spectrum. We even work with startups.
Okay.
But I'd say our biggest clients are more global brands because they tend to have bigger programs and do more volume of work. So
How has video, since you got your start in the 90s, how has video changed based on the platforms that it goes on?
well, it's changed. I mean, unbelievably
Yeah.
dramatically because before there was digital, you couldn't show videos online back in the early 2000s, right? In the beginning of the internet, there just wasn't the bandwidth. So video wasn't really a thing until maybe 2000, 2005, 2006, and
Mm,
from then on, because the bandwidth online allowed video, and since then, video, ultimately people would rather watch video by far,
yeah.
by multiple, by multiples than read static text and graphics. So video is the number one form of content. From the research I've done, it's the number one preferred form of content versus all other forms of content. So we're
Mm,
doing a lot more of it.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure. And now the platforms are treating video so favorably.
Yes.
It really reaches quite a large audience. So what is something as an entrepreneur and a business owner, what's something on your best kept list of secrets, whether it be websites, books, TED Talks, events, what keeps you inspired and keeps you evolving?
Well, a few things. I'd say, on the one hand, there's research. So I look at the latest news every day from the leading content marketers and video marketers out there. And it's unbelievable, the new stats you see every day. Just when I think I kind of get it and I'm kind of a master of this subject, I realize there's so much more to learn, and there's so much more data out there showing the effectiveness of digital marketing and video marketing. But I will say that one of the things that we see as one of the challenges we're seeing is the quality of content now is more important because there's so much of it, whether it's video or other types of content. So the research I'm doing is really showing, from various thought leaders in the space, is showing that there's almost a glut of content out there now. So just churning out blogs and churning out videos just for content's sake isn't effective as it used to be just a few years ago. But there's so much of it now. It has to be very, very compelling and interesting and informative. Otherwise, it doesn't. People won't engage. So.
Yeah. So then, as an entrepreneur, what do you love? What do you love about the entrepreneurial journey?
Well, there's a lot to love about it. You're not going to work for another, an organization where you're punching a clock and you have little say in what in decisions that are made. You're kind of charting your own course. I would say it's very American. Mm-hmm. It's very much, buy your bootstraps, you risk and reward. The risks are huge. The reward can be big. The risk could be huge. So it's exciting, exhilarating, and not always positive. There's ups and downs. But I'd say that, being the master of your destiny and be able to create your own, map, chart your own course and help other people. And I love helping, whether it's small companies or larger businesses, helping them succeed, because that's the funnest part.
Yeah. What would you say is, like, speaking of the entrepreneurial journey and there being ups and downs, what would you say is something you do to recover from a tougher day?
Wow.
Yeah. Assuming you have tough days, but I think
I have tough days. Yes, we all, you'd be a liar if you said you own a business and didn't have tough days,
yeah,
right?
Truly.
Well, I guess the one thing is I try to learn from our mistakes. If there were mistakes that were had, the first thing is to learn from them.
Yeah.
And then just keep forging on. I mean, you can take about 3 minutes to say, man, this is terrible. And then you have to get right back up and just get back into the ring.
Yeah.
Because you can't. When you're an entrepreneur, you're the only one making the bills happen with you and your team, and covering expenses, ideally profiting. But no matter what, you're the one that's on the front lines, and you just have to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and say, wow, that was an experience, and hopefully it was it's just a great learning experience. Then you move on, you continue moving on.
And that is really smart to look back and see what you can learn from it, because I feel like sometimes things happen where it's like just so unexpected that you don't necessarily immediately see a learning from that, but maybe over time you might start gleaning, the learnings that could come from that. Or if something similar happens like that in the future, you now have experience in handling it. You're like, well, this is still crazy, but I at least know how to handle it.
Yes, I compare it to something like, they say, I mean, not that war is a great analogy, but just looking at the perspective of, you can do all the training you can, but it's field people in the military that have actually fought battles that are really the most experienced, because they're out there, they're under live fire, they have to make decisions, they learn from it. And when you're in business, you're under live fire. You're effectively under live fire every day, and metaphorically. So you learn from it. You have to learn from your mistakes. If you keep doing the same thing over and you keep making the same mistakes, they call that insanity, right? So if you see that there's a pattern, then you have to really reassess where you're at. And I find it interesting in marketing. We've had to reinvent our business probably 3 or 4 times since we started, just because it keeps changing. So you can't just sit in your easy seat and say, we've got this business plan, this model, it's going to work great. And you turn your head, then all of a sudden everything changes again. You have to be just constantly working and learning and growing, and you have to constantly be on top of what's happening out there. I think more so than most other professions, that you have to be on what's happening and changing, or you're no good. If you're 6 months, a year out of date with your knowledge of marketing, you're basically almost useless, right? So you have to constantly be learning.
It's certainly a constant evolution, I would say. So tell us what you're doing with the event coming up in Boston.
So we're having an event called Bridging the Digital Divide. We do these events a couple times a year for our clients. and our customers and prospective customers.
Okay.
And we could consider like a marketing thought leadership event where we bring people in. We're having lunch, a complimentary lunch. We have speakers from a company called Aantec, which is a leading digital company in Boston, and a
Okay.
company called Crayon, started by some people that were originally from HubSpot years ago, that have created what I believe to be the leading and most powerful competitive intelligence platform out there.
Interesting.
And then I'll be speaking on the subject of integrated content marketing and how to really power your content marketing engine to be successful.
That company Crayon, I love that they're doing something so cutting edge, and their name is Crayon. Like it's
Yes, it's a crayon. The idea of crayon, I guess the spectrum of colors in the crayon boxes.
okay.
The idea from, and yeah, it's very interesting. And what's great about their platform is our interest in it is how to create better content. Knowing your competition, a lot of companies are so inwardly focused. They're doing a lot of companies do a pretty good job of their marketing from an inside perspective, but they're not looking at like a sports team where you wouldn't think that the Patriots go to the Super Bowl without looking at every other all the other teams out there, right? So knowing your competitive landscape it gives you better decision-making capabilities when it comes to creating better content. So that's the tie-in we see with content marketing and competitive intelligence.
All right. So as we wrap up, what's one thing that's on your radar as an industry expert that you think we'll all be talking about in another year or two from now?
Wow, a lot.
There's so much happening right now, isn't there?
Yes, I think, well, we don't, yeah, with what's happening with the different platforms and the changes. I mean, I think some things on when it comes to things like Facebook and even Twitter, there's a lot of personal information and data that's they're looking at now. That, for example, if Facebook can't mine a certain amount of personal data, then you can't target people the same way, right? With marketing. So those changes are already having maybe something of a chilling effect on how marketers can leverage data to best target people. So there is the whole privacy concern that may change there. So if there's laws that get put in place that change, that safeguard your privacy to the level that marketers can't as easily target you, then that's changing how we market. And then when it comes to content marketing, I think the biggest changes, which we see now, which are going to continue accelerating, we're seeing a trend toward lesser volume but higher quality content versus just throwing out average or subpar average content just to spam it out there and get Google rankings, because Google is getting smarter and it's more about I think quality versus quantity. So that's why I think
you are onto something there. There was a period where it was all about quantity.
Yes,
I think the pendulum's back to the quality,
which I prefer as a marketer. I'd rather do high quality stuff than churn out volumes of subpar content, and that's better for I think everybody.
Right, that's good. John, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Katrina. Thanks so much.